What if either you or your best friend were to be executed and you only had 3 days to figure out who? I'm Dre, and this is The Midnight Hour. Tonight we will be looking at a short story from a very tragic Japanese writer named Osamu Dazai, and his short story called Run Melos. Run Melos is about a shepherd who lives in a small town and who is to tend to his younger sister's wedding that is going to be happening in a few days' time. To get all of the arrangements set up, he travels to the nearest city named Syracuse so that he can purchase all of the things needed for the wedding. Now, while he's there, he notices how empty the streets are and that nobody is really out. Nobody is singing in the streets like they used to be when he visited 2 years ago. And so he starts to ask around what's going on. He finally figures out that the king, Dionysius, is so evil that he's been executing people left and right because of how suspicious he's gotten toward his own people, and indeed his own family, his own relatives, his own children, and even his own wife. Now, Melos, being the heroic type of person he is, decides he's going to go take care of this situation. So he walks right into the king's courts and, of course, is taken down, and he is now confronted with the king himself, and the king tells him, I'm going to execute you for this. This is treason, basically. But because Melos has this wedding to tend to, he asks if he can be pardoned for 3 days, and he will return in that time period to be executed. The king laughs at this. He says, no way, nobody would do that. And because Melos has a best friend living in the city of Syracuse, he says, let me give you my best friend as a hostage. The king agrees. So they bring forth Selenuntius, who is Melos's best friend, and they embrace, and Melos promises he will return in 3 days' time to take Selenuntius's place so that the execution can go forward. Melos eventually leaves, goes back home. The wedding goes off without a hitch, and now it is up to Melos to return to Syracuse and to go forward with the execution. On his journey back, he encounters floods. He encounters thieves, and just all of these hurdles that would stop any other person in their tracks, but not Melos. He is a heroic figure through and through. He returns in the nick of time, just as the sun is going down on the third day. And he approaches Selenuntius, asks him, you know what? Before I can embrace you, I need you to strike me because I was this close to not being able to return. And Selenuntius strikes him. Selenuntius then says, I need you to strike me as well because I thought you weren't going to return. I'm basically embarrassed for the fact that I thought you were going to be disloyal. So Melos strikes Selenuntius. They embrace. This moves King Dionysius so much to the point that he approaches the two men and asks to be their friend. Everyone cheers in the crowd. There is weeping all around. And that is how the story ends, on a sweet and happy note. And this is an interesting story because from what I gather, writer Osamu Dazai was more of a tragic writer in both his real life and his literary persona. So I thought this was a great story to cover because it was something a little bit more upbeat and happy. Now, the 3 sections we're going to go into in this story really capture the loyalty arc of it all. And the first section we're going to go into is Melos waking up and realizing he's got to get going on his journey. And it goes. He awoke in the pale light of dawn. Oh God, he thought, springing to his feet. Have I overslept? No, there was still time. If he left at once, he could reach Syracuse by sunset. He would show the king that men kept their word. And then he would laugh as they fastened him to the cross. The rain seemed to slacken as Melos calmly prepared for the journey. When he was ready to leave, he swung his arms in a circle and dashed out into the drizzle like a flying arrow. Tonight I shall die, he told himself. I will be put to death for having run, but I will rescue my hostage friend and defeat the wicked king as well. I must run that I may be put to death. Melos, be faithful even in your youth. Farewell, my native village. So this really shows you what someone may be going through when they are hurrying up to their own execution. It is all about loyalty at this point for Melos. He knows he can run in the other direction, or he knows he can stay put in his native village. He knows that he doesn't have to return. There is nobody forcing him to return, but he's not going to do that. He can't do that. His best friend's life is at stake, and whether or not his best friend survives is all on his own shoulders. The second section is really Melos getting to that point of just breaking down, knowing that he has run as far as he could and that there is pretty much no hope left for him returning in time. It goes. Melos reproached himself, but his sagging body could not even maintain a snail's pace. He rolled into the grass by the roadside. When the flesh is weary, the spirit too gives up. And somewhere within the body, a sense of indifference takes root. Melos simply gave up. He had already struggled valiantly, never questioning his pledge, and the gods knew he had done his best. He had run until he could no longer move. He wasn't a traitor. Oh, if only he could rend his breast and reveal the heart within. Then Selenuntius would see that love and loyalty were in his very blood. But at this crucial moment, his strength was gone, leaving him utterly wretched. Surely he would be mocked and his family name besmirched. He had deceived his friend. Better if he had not set out at all than to collapse along the way. But fate had overtaken, and he no longer cared what happened. Forgive me, Selenuntius. You always trusted me, and I have been loyal. Our friendship has never once been darkened by clouds of suspicion. Even now you await me, confident of my arrival. I am so grateful for that, Selenuntius. Trust between friends is the world's finest treasure, and I can hardly endure what has happened. I ran, Selenuntius. I never intended to deceive you. Believe me. I ran faster and faster. I swam a muddy torrent and escaped a pack of thieves. I raced down the mountain pass in one breath. I did it because that's the sort of person I am, but don't expect anything more. Let me be. I don't care any longer. I've lost. I'm a good for nothing. Oh, go ahead and laugh at me. So we see the kind of inner dialogue that happens when such deep loyalty is threatened by human survival instincts and the utter dread that comes along with it. He doesn't want to let down his best friend. He can't bear the thought of it, but he knows that that might be what happens in the long run after all. Now, we can't leave this story on such a low note. We have to look at the last page and really amplify that happy ending energy. And here's the third part, and it goes. Finally, Melos climbed the platform and caught hold of his friend's ascending feet. A stir ran through the crowd, and everyone cried out together, "Hurrah, let him down!" Selenuntius was freed of his bonds. With tears in his eyes, Melos addressed his friend. "Strike me, Selenuntius. Strike me with all your might. I had an evil dream on the way back. If you don't strike me, I shall not be worthy to embrace you. Strike me." Selenuntius nodded, as though he understood everything. Then he slapped Melos forcefully on the right cheek, the blow resounding throughout the grounds. Thereupon, Selenuntius smiled gently and said, "Strike me, Melos. Strike me on the cheek just as hard. Once during the 3 days you were away, I lost my trust in you. For the first time ever. If you don't strike me, I won't be able to embrace you." His hand whizzing through the air, Melos slapped his friend on the cheek. "Thank you, friend," they both said at the same time. Then they embraced each other firmly and wept with joy. In the crowd, too, weeping could be heard. The tyrant Dionysius, who had been gazing from the rear, silently approached the two friends with a look of shame on his face. "You have won me over, and your hopes are fulfilled. Loyalty isn't just a hollow word," he said. "Will you both accept me as a friend? Please listen to this request. I wish to be your friend." A cheer went up from the crowd. "Long live the king! Long live the king!" Beautiful story, beautiful ending. And what I find so inspiring is that each friend is so loyal to the other that they pay for things they even think about in private. Neither needed to admit their loss of trust in the other, but they did that. They did so they could embrace on a clean slate. And that moved the hardest of hearts, like the one in Dionysius. And it just goes to show that true loyalty and true friendship rubs off on anyone that witnesses it, because it is a beautiful thing. And it's such a rare type of relationship that we are able to see these days in our world. And that's always an incredibly inspiring thing. So that was the story for tonight. Like this video if you felt something, comment with what you thought, and I will see you next Sunday at the midnight hour.